throughout that journey, I started to ask myself, is this where we will land at having zero net worth? My talents, again, are not managing project management, big fix and flip teams. My talent is, pharmacy. So I'm better served doing that, leveraging my W-2 income, leveraging my work history to purchase more property. Yep. And I turned on a dynamic pricing tool. The algorithm priced it for that 30 nights. I was thinking to myself, since I made $6K on one, probably $8K. It priced it at $28K. And I said to myself, okay, let me turn this off because something's wrong. It got booked immediately.
No.
And so I had to ask myself, where else am I playing small in my life?
This is the Better Life Podcast with Brandon Turner and
Cam Cathcart.
Cam, I got a question for you, buddy.
Let's hear it.
Why don't skeletons fight each other?
Because they're too bony. I don't know.
Because they don't have the guts. I literally chat GPT, tell me a corny dad joke. So
you know my favorite corny dad joke?
What's that?
What do you get when you cross an elephant and a rhino? Hell if I know.
That's pretty good, actually. I've never heard that one.
Yeah,
that's good.
It's my favorite.
All right, well, you know what else is my favorite? Today's guest.
She's amazing.
She is so good. So Rachel Gainsbrugh, Dr. Rachel Gainsbrugh is our guest today, and she is phenomenal in a lot of different ways, but specifically we spend a lot of time today going deep into midterm and short-term rental properties. And she makes this case that you don't need 100 units to get like real freedom and relief from your job, and a couple can do it. If the right properties, you're going to learn about some crazy stories. It was phenomenal.
It was phenomenal how she bought a house and resold it or potentially resold it. We don't know yet. The show hasn't came out yet.
Yeah, the Netflix show coming out about this.
But for double the price in 1 year, just based off of pushing midterm rentals and revenue up.
I've never really like strongly considered midterm. I've done a little bit of it back in the day with traveling nurses at some of my rentals, but this is the problem of being on a podcast about real estate is like every week we're like, we're going to do that.
Dude, I'm all in.
I'm all in. Midterm rentals. We're going all in. I think y'all are going to love this episode. So without further ado, let's get to the episode. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Turbotenant and Ballpoint Marketing. These two companies are big supporters of the show, and they know how to work with real estate investors and help real estate investors grow their businesses. So be sure to stay tuned to hear how you can get discounts and free stuff from them both. And as you probably know, all the profits from this show go to charities of the guest choosing. So when you listen to the sponsors on the show and you work with these hand-chosen by me sponsors, you're actually doing good for the world. Now let's get to the show. Rachel, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. I'm excited to learn from you because this is an area that I'm not super well versed in. So I know that your story is phenomenal. I know you as a pharmacist turned real estate investor. I know you do a lot of midterm rental stuff, short-term rental stuff. I know you're on a Netflix show, which is wild. We'll talk about that. And I'm pretty sure you're the only person who's been on the show who's played steel drums for Hillary Clinton. I want to know about that as well because I got that in my notes here. But take us back before all that, before the steel drums. Who was Rachel Gainsbrugh?
Well, little girl from Haiti, the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, poor financially, but rich in spirit. That's where
you are the third or fourth person from Haiti in the last 2 weeks we've recorded on the show. Mm-hmm. That's wild. Yeah.
Okay, there's a Haitian connection.
There's a connection.
Here.
Yeah.
I love.
Anyway, okay, keep going. So
raised in the inner city of Miami, and I learned early on from my parents, it was all about faith and education. So how do you get out of the inner city? It was education. Yeah. Did all the things, went on to get a doctorate. Hooray, I got it made, right?
How long did that take you?
Oh my goodness, like 8 years. Right, eight quick years, plus
tons
2
of
years of
debt.
residency. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for sure. So
thought
I had it made, and then that came with a whopping nearly $500,000 in student loan debt.
Oh, geez, yeah.
Yeah. So my husband and I, he went to school as well. He got his master's in psychology, but we weren't going to back down. We had to figure out how to fix this because financial literacy was never a conversation we had at the dinner table. There weren't a lot of finances to literate upon, so to speak.
So you and your husband, you guys started your professional careers with $800,000 in student loans or whatever. You're $500,000. He's got his.
Well, it was combined $500,000 between the two of us. Yeah. Which is wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we needed to find a path that would generate results. And so during that time, Dave Ramsey was the talk of the town. Yeah. So we started with our debt snowball and started to take some massive action. We sold everything but the kids. We were on rice and beans. Like, we really followed it to a T. But throughout that journey, I started to ask myself, is this where we will land having zero net worth? Mm-hmm. And so I'm always future pacing. I want to look a little bit forward as I started to see the light. Yeah. And it wasn't an oncoming train, but I started to see the light. I wanted to know, like, what's next? Yeah. So I took off my Dave Ramsey hat and put on my bigger pockets hat. Yes. And the rest was history. We purchased our very first rental. Went into the short-term rental realm because I evaluated. I'm a spreadsheets girl. Mm-hmm. I evaluated all of the investing strategies. Yeah. And for me, during that season of life, that was the fast track for me, was getting into short-term rentals, specifically a little bit more upscale short-term rentals where I could add some value to it. And really, it's just changed the trajectory of our lives. Yeah. So in a few short years, our journey's been nothing short of amazing. And so that's what I'm here to share today.
Awesome. All right. I want to unpack all that. Before we do, though, I kind of go into how you got that. I want to know a little bit more Dave Ramsey versus bigger pockets, maybe. Yeah. I'd love to have that conversation. Before we get all that, though, let's hit today's show sponsor. One thing we do on the show is we dedicate 100% of the ad revenue toward a charity of the guest's choosing. So where are we throwing the money at from this episode and why?
Mona. So that's a organization that helps women with financial literacy.
Oh, very cool.
In underrepresented countries as well. So provide some funding for them to become more educated, start businesses, to stand on their 2 feet. So I'm very passionate about women having financial literacy and access to it.
That's great. Mona, like M-O-N-A?
Yep.
Mona? Like Mona Lisa Mona.
Yeah.
All right, very cool. Well, we will be sure to do that. All right, so I look down at my phone and I see this text. You need to call me. Your house is on fire. And I sat there and I'm looking at the screen and I'm wondering, is this some kind of a joke? The guy who sent it was a tenant I had been trying to evict for months and he hadn't paid him forever. He had trashed the house. I mean, it was disgusting. And the guy himself was, pretty darn unstable. Now, of course, I call him after that text and it goes to voicemail. Great. Now, a few minutes later, I get a call from the fire department. Yep, my first ever rental house was burning down. So how did I get myself in that situation? Well, I didn't screen that tenant. I put in someone I thought would be good, and he was until he wasn't. Now, this was over a decade ago, and since then, I've learned how to properly vet a tenant, and that's through Turbotenant, which makes screening for both background and credit really, really easy. But it gets even better. Turbotenant also helps you market your rentals to like dozens of the largest sites, including apartments.com and Redfin. You can create custom leases that cover all your rental laws. And you can even use Turbotenant for your automatic rent payments. All of this for less than the cost of your Netflix subscription. Yeah, I know, crazy. Save time, save money, and save your sanity by using Turbotenant. And because you're so darn cute, you can use the code Brandon10 to save 10%. So check it out at turbotenant.com/betterlife. Hey, so many of you have heard me tell that story about how I bought my daughter Rosie a fourplex, like a rental property, the week she was born, and how we put it on an 18-year, mortgage payoff plan so it'll be paid off when she graduates from high school. So essentially, my tenants are paying for Rosie's entire college. Now that's pretty awesome, right? Not to mention, it's also making almost like $1,000 a month in cash flow. That's double awesome. But I don't think I've ever shared really exactly how I found that deal. So here it goes. I found it through direct mail marketing. And here's how. I simply built a high quality lead list of a lot of names and addresses of potential sellers, and I sent out a whole bunch of mail to every person on that list. And then I talked on the phone to a ton of people, and then I finally got one person that was interested enough to sell me the property, and I got a deal at a great price. So building that giant lead engine like that, it works, but it takes a ton of time, knowledge, and effort, which can really slow down an investor's growth, which is why I reached out to my friend Ryan with Ballpoint Marketing. I asked him to sponsor this show because they're the best at doing everything that I just talked about. Like, they're literally going to help you build your entire lead engine. You're going to get a one-on-one call where they're going to help you figure out what you want and then build your lead list for you. Their robots are going to handwrite the postcards with a real pen, which is super cool. They're going to send them out, and they'll even answer the phone calls for you. Plus, they'll help you track it all inside of a CRM that they create for you. I know, it's crazy awesome. And it's going to help you land way more deals consistently. And because you're awesome and because you listen to this show, you're going to get a discount when you tell them that I sent you, or just use code Brandon when checking out with them. I love Ballpoint Marketing and officially recommend them to all my friends and masterminds. So if you're ready to kick your deal flow up a notch, getting more quality leads without pulling your hair out, just go to ballpointmarketing.com/betterlife, or just shoot me a DM on Instagram with the word ballpoint, like one word, ballpoint, and I'll hook you up with them directly. All right, back to Rachel here. So let's talk. Dave, who is Dave Ramsey right for, and who is he not right for?
Ooh, so trick question, right? I believe Dave Ramsey's right for the individual who is strapped with a massive amount of debt. Mm-hmm. They don't know where to turn. They don't have access, or I would say familiarity with financial literacy. They've never lived on a budget. Yeah. They don't know what that looks like. And they're out of control. Yeah. And that's where I was. Yeah. It's completely out of control, had $500,000 of student loan debt. And I thought to myself, you know what, what's my next best step? Let me go and get this car, this luxury car. Let me get this big old house. And so I was piling it on. So Dave Ramsey is for her. Yeah. For sure.
Would you, looking back, like knowing Dave, like learning about Dave Ramsey's principles and all, and by the way, I'm a Dave Ramsey fan in that regard of getting out of debt. Like my wife and I used the process as well. And it was wonderful. It's great defensive, great, foundational stuff. Would you have not done the student loan debt, like not gone to school, not got the doctorate now knowing that? Or was that just a necessary evil you needed to get to that point? Like, how would you look at that in your own journey? And for other people that might be asking you advice today is like, I really want to be a pharmacist, but I don't know if I want the $500K in student loan debt. How would you look at that situation now?
I would have been a little bit more judicious, because when the school is lending you out a number and you're thinking, oh, this is great. Let me get an apartment. Let me do all these things that I'm going to pay tuition and live off of it. Having done Dave Ramsey, I most likely would have taken out less student loan debt, gotten a little bit more of an understanding of what does that payoff, what is that going to look like? Yeah. I would have worked in the pharmacy as a technician to curb some of the costs for, say, my board, my food and things like that. But I still would have gone. I still would have gotten into student loan debt, most likely. Again, from Haiti, we're immigrants. Yeah. My family did not have the purse or deep pockets to put me through school. So all of undergrad, I went through undergrad for free. I had all scholarships because of my grades. But graduate, it's like, we're done with you. You're on your own. Yeah, so I would have done that. Dave Ramsey does not want you to take on a mortgage. Yep. So that's controversial. Imagine how I felt, but it still went through that as well. So it's all a matter of having discipline. If you're disciplined, I think you can navigate and improvise a little bit, So I know I feel like I'm Dave Ramsey-ish, which he hates. Yeah. So Dave, if you're listening, don't come for me.
Dave. Yeah. Well, I think there's a... I love to say Dave Ramsey teaches you to play defense, and Bigger Pockets or Robert Kiyosaki, like our world of real estate investing and wealth building, that teaches you to play offense. And you need both in order to win a game. You can't just be a great offensive team because you'll lose in the defense, and you can't just be defensive. You'll never live a big life. I feel like, or you'll struggle to live a big life. So what do you think, Cam?
Dave Ramsey was super instrumental when I was in my early 20s, because that was actually a wedding present that my wife and I got. We got married at 20, and they gave us his Financial Peace University. And we needed it at that time. We did the envelope system and had every cash and we needed it, and it taught me how to budget, and it taught me how to be smart with my money. But at the same time, I was making $40,000 a year, and I didn't have $500,000 in student loans, but I had $70,000 in student loans. We were paycheck to paycheck. And one of my things was like, I'm like, no matter what I do with Dave Ramsey's system, I'm never going to be able to pay this off. And then we got hit with other debt. Like, I'm never going to be able to pay any of this off. And so like, I think that it was so valuable, because outside of, even to this day, outside of our mortgages on now our rental properties that we own, and we don't have a personal house now, but our old personal house, I've never had debt whatsoever. And so that, even like today, is such a valuable tool, and it's such a freeing tool in our life. Like, But at the same time, I never learned how you can use money to make money and use debt to create wealth. And Dave Ramsey would say that's idiotic. So I actually love Dave Ramsey. I think he's so good for people. And I think he's really great for the average person that's making $70,000 to $100,000 a year. They don't want a side hustle. They don't care about a side hustle. Yep. I think that he's perfect for those people.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
I remember being burnt out in the pharmacy one day and having worked between my husband and I. We were working 5 jobs between the two of us on the Dave Ramsey system and just asking myself, is this what life has to offer me? Is this my life?
Yeah.
Is this my life?
yeah.
So driving an hour sometimes to get to work, I would listen to the podcast and just start to I felt as though, I had to borrow the belief,
Yeah.
right? Had to borrow the belief of what's possible. And I remember reading the book on real estate investing. And when I read that book, and there was a table on there that broke down, if the air conditioning needs to repair, here's how much it costs. If the plumbing needs to be repaired, once I saw that, it was game on. I had been 2 years in analysis paralysis. I saw that table. I took action that month and got my first investment.
That's so cool.
I needed to see it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Where'd you buy it? Your first deal. Where'd you buy?
In my own backyard.
Okay.
Yeah, in my own backyard. So what's interesting is when I started to invest in real estate, I wanted to really dabble in all of the different methodologies. A wholesaler reached out to me, had an amazing property out in Alabama, only $17,000.
Yeah.
So my husband and I were like, yeah, we're gonna do all these things with this property. So we drove from Atlanta market to Alabama. We got there, the roof was caving in. The house looked as though it was being held together by caulking, and that was the aha moment. You have these, you can connect the dots looking back. That was an aha moment for me, and I realized, okay, I'm not a fix and flipper.
Yeah.
I'm not a we buy ugly houses.
Yeah.
I'm not her. I'm a we buy pretty houses.
Yeah.
So I took that same $17,000, put a down payment on a $200,000 home in my market, 4-bedroom, was able to rent it out within 30 days for $6,000 a month on a mortgage. That was $1,500.
Did you know that you were going to get into, because I'm assuming that was a midterm or short-term rental on that one? Did you already have that game plan going into it?
Absolutely.
Okay, so when you bought it, you were like, I'm gonna short-term rent.
So you never started with like just buying a traditional rental, renting out, and like eventually getting into midterm or short term. You just started there.
I started there
That's
because
cool.
the numbers, the spreadsheets told me what was going to give me the biggest bang for my buck.
What year was that?
That was back in 2018.
28. So you were ahead of a lot of people in
Possibly.
2018. Yeah. I mean,
it really blew up in 2020.
2020, COVID and afterwards.
Yeah, wild. Okay, so I love that idea that you looked at the math. You said, hey, this strategy, it just makes sense right now. Now that's changed. We can talk about that probably later, about some of the math that's changed, some of the competitiveness, and I want to pick your brain on that. But I first want to go back to your story a little bit. Got that first property. Now you're getting the confidence. I love these days, borrow the belief. You borrow the belief, then you proved it, and all of a sudden you're making cash flow now. Like, what was your thought process then? Was it like, I'm quitting my job today, or was it like, I'm going to get a bunch of these?
No, not at all. Let's do it again.
Okay.
Let's do it again. A lot of times we don't go into healthcare thinking we're going to quit.
Yeah.
That's the difference between a lot of investors and healthcare professionals. We don't go in looking to quit. We're in a healing business or a healing industry where we're just looking to cut back a little bit and curb the burnout a little bit, right? That is the goal. And so my goal was never to quit. I mean, I'm still shocked today that I quit. To this day. So my goal was, let's do this again. How many more times can we do this? So the second property was, again, in my own backyard. Rinse and repeat, why not? And so we got a property that was a little bit bigger. We had a local lender help us get this amazing loan. This was in 2019. And when we launched it, since it was a bigger property, the cleaning team that I had at the moment, I didn't think was going to be at capacity to take that on. So I listed it for a 30-night minimum. And I said to myself, you know what? Give me a 30-night minimum. Let me onboard the cleaning team, get this place up and running. I love a property that needs a little bit of lipstick.
Yeah.
My talents, again, are not managing project management, big fix and flip teams. My talent is, pharmacy. So I'm better served doing that leveraging my W-2 income, leveraging my work history to purchase more property.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. And I turned on a dynamic pricing tool. The algorithm priced it for that 30 nights. I was thinking to myself, oh, since I made $6K on one, probably $8K. Dare I think $10K? I was like, there's no way I'll get to $10K. But I was just kind of fantasizing about it. It priced it at $28K. And I said to myself, okay, let me turn this off because something's wrong. It got booked immediately.
No way.
And I remember that night, remember that moment?
Yeah.
This was an aha moment for me. I just sat there thinking to myself, I was about to train this algorithm to price it at around 8K or 9K. And that would have messed up the projections in the future for that property. It got booked. And so I had to ask myself, where else am I playing small in my life?
Yeah.
So the algorithm did not have, money trauma issues from being a little girl or from the inner city. None of that.
Yeah.
It looked at the data, looked at what the other properties in that market could go for, look at the scarcity in our particular market, and it priced it there. So in my mind, I'm thinking, who pays $28,000? Well, it's not who, it's a corporation. Corporations' pockets are deep. So that was our first foray into midterm rentals.
Wow.
Is leveraging that particular strategy. And so we wanted to learn more, like who else can we serve at this capacity? And turns out it's not necessarily the individual that we're working with. It is with the insurance corporations, the film industry, and we get to serve those in our community who have a need.
Why would they pay $28,000 when they could just go rent something else for $8,000? Like, is it just because it's furnished and because it's short-term lease, you don't have to have it for a year? Is that the gist?
That's part of it. That's part of it. But the value proposition that we offer. And so one of the biggest values that we offer, 60% of hosts are not willing to offer pet-friendly, where the vast majority of guests who are looking for midterm stay, they require pet-friendly stays. So that already. So go and look at how much it costs to board Fufu and Lucy, right?
Yeah.
And everyone has 2 or 3 dogs. It's like a mortgage to board them for a month. And so we bake some of that into our pricing, and the algorithm baked that into the pricing.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
What software, by the way, do you use for like dynamic pricing? Like, are there different
Price
ones?
Labs is the one that I use.
Price Labs.
Price Labs, yep. It's not the most user-friendly all the time, but listen, I'm not changing a thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
I'm not changing a thing.
All right, so we're like, what came next? I mean, how big did you grow your portfolio? I mean, you don't need a lot of properties at this level.
No,
to make that kind.
You don't. And that's why for medical professionals or higher income earners, those who are looking to take advantage of tax strategies, I really believe in what I call the 2-door strategy. All you need is 2 doors to radically change your life. So you can work at your W-2, you can cut back a little bit. Just 2 well-positioned doors, a short-term rental, a midterm rental, is how we're able to start changing our lives. And then so we grew our portfolio by actually stumbling into GoBundance. Our net worth had skyrocketed at that point, got into GoBundance, had some partnerships, joint ventures, and grabbed a portfolio of properties in the Poconos of Pennsylvania.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. For $175,000, guys, $175,000 to $390K, 10 properties. It was just incredible. Worked with a developer there to help us refurbish quite a bit, renovate some, rehab a few. And those properties, they hit some record-breaking numbers for us. Yeah.
Wow.
That's cool.
But
you
again,
hit it
it's
really
the
well.
data.
Yeah, it sounds like you hit it well with COVID too, right? Like, have you seen a drop since then? Or what's it like today owning short-term and midterm rentals?
Today, I would say midterm rentals hasn't changed.
Okay.
So sadly, houses are burning down for whatever reason. It could be an accidental reason, or it could be a weather-related reason, forest fires. Water pipes are bursting all the time in my market. I don't know why, but water pipes keep bursting. And so the house is deemed uninhabitable. From 2018 to today, we are still serving those types of clients in the suburban markets. As far as the short-term rental markets, you have to up your game. That's what we have seen. You have to up your game. New is better than better. People want the newest, the shiniest properties. So you want to be mindful of what your competitors are doing, and all of that information is out there. You can just go on to Airbnb as an end user and see what the competitors are doing and improve upon, the key metrics. It's going to be your communication with your guests, the amenitization of your properties. You don't necessarily have to build out a contemporary pool, but what is it that you can offer that in this particular market guests are looking for?
What are some certain amenities that you guys offer that isn't a heavy lift, like putting in a pickleball court or something like that? Like for us, when we look for an Airbnb, we're just looking for kids' toys, like a kids' room or something like that. So, and that's easy. That's not expensive. What are some things that you guys are doing where it ups the value of your short-term rental that's easy for somebody to do like tomorrow?
Acquisition phase is huge for me. I run the numbers like there's nobody's business. So I'm always looking for a property that has a master or a bedroom on the main level with everything else, because we love to cater to multi-generational multifamilies who are traveling with elderly, with children, with pets. And so that bedroom on the main level trumps a lot of the other attributes of a property. Pet friendly is not a heavy lift. Gaming, you're right. That changes things. So if a property has, for instance, a second living room, that formal living room you're not allowed to sit in, that's fancy. Yeah, that is a pool table. That's foosball. That's the soccer thing. I forget the name of it. English is my third language. The struggle is real. So that becomes gaming. And so say the grands are in the other living room, and then the kids, you can just kind of sashay them over into gaming. And so they have their own personal area.
When it comes to short-term, let's not short-term for a minute. When it comes to short-term, is just bigger always better? Do you find like just the bigger property you have, the more beds, it just generally works out better? Is that a good rule of thumb, or does it depend?
It depends. I like bigger. It's most of the time better, but then we got to look at the numbers. So if bigger means now I'm getting into a $3 million investment because it's a 12-bedroom versus a 5-bedroom, that's, a $700,000 investment. I'm leaning towards the $700,000 range, unless I'm going boutique hotel, which is a whole different conversation. So bigger is better if the number works. At the end of the day, the math has to math. If math isn't mathing, then
That's a good quote of the day. And then why would somebody choose midterm over short-term or short-term over midterm? Can you give us somebody who's debating, like, I don't know which one to choose and I've been indecision forever? How do you make that choice?
Well, you don't have to. What I love is a good hybrid model. So for instance, if I have a guest right now that's going to check out today on a midterm, well, the next few days, as we are looking for our next midterm rental guest by connecting with, the stakeholders that we connect with, the next 10 days may be vacant. So we can leverage a short-term strategy during that time. The first day, the cleaners and maintenance is going to come in to tighten all the things and clean up. So then that's my short-term during the in-between time. I think it's really important right now in this day and age to have a strategy for both, to understand how both works, because we have a lot of regulations that have come out that excludes the ability to operate as a short-term rental. So what do you do in that situation? Are you just going to let your investment just go and die? No, we have to pivot. And part of the pivot is understanding what midterm rental strategies work in your market. I like having a primary and a secondary midterm rental strategy. So in my market, it's the insurance policy holders, but the secondary is the filming industry.
So if you're not in an area, I know like where you're at in Atlanta and Peachtree City and all that, like there's a lot of film, a lot of industry there. If you're in an area that doesn't have that, are you just relying on healthcare workers or traveling nurses? Is that still the primary use of midterm rentals?
We're seeing now, according to Furnish Finder data and Price Labs data, that non-medical midterm travel and demand has outperformed midterm rental travel demand that is healthcare related.
Interesting.
Okay, so what are we talking about? Say you, like in Tempe, there's the baseball MLB. So that's a midterm strategy. You can leverage that there if you're in Tempe. Look around and see what is it in your market that potentially will bring travelers for midterm rentals. Construction happens so much, and then those workers require a place to stay temporarily as well. Higher education, if you're near a university, the professors that are coming in that are guest professors for a few months, that's another one. There's over, I want to say 105 midterm rental avatars out there who need a place. And we're in a political cycle right now. So political campaign staff, they're looking for a place to stay as well. So if you're near a state capital, think about that.
You mentioned Furnish Finders. And then there's Finder or Finders?
Furnish
Furnish Finder.
Yeah.
And then there's Airbnb, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Why is one better than the other for finding midterm tenants? Is they just you put them both and see what they got?
Like, it's going to get controversial.
Okay,
Yeah. So what I found with Furnish Finder for me and my avatar, my guest avatar, as well as my property avatar, since I like to invest in larger properties like 4 bedrooms plus, really ours are 5 to 8 bedrooms for the most part. Furnish Finder has struggled. They're getting better. They've struggled to cater to my avatar, whereas they have. They're really popular for the travel nurse who's looking for the 1 bedroom or the studio, right?
Yeah.
And so we find a lot of bargain shoppers on Furnish Finder and those who want to a little bit nickel and dime you, where it's just we're listed on there. We make great contacts on there, but Furnish Finder is not my bread and butter.
Okay.
Airbnb is definitely a place that we list our properties, but for the insurance, we list it on a few other platforms as well. At the end of the day, like it or not, Airbnb is the Google search for temporary housing that is furnished, right? So,
are you guys out there finding people to rent your properties by connecting with these insurance, companies and whatnot, or are they still going to Airbnb and finding you and reaching out to you or something like that? How are you finding your people?
Yeah, that's a great question. So let's talk about the avatars that are looking for the property. You have 2 avatars for the most part, sometimes 3.
Yeah.
Number 1, say the actual guest, they're looking for the property. Okay, my house may be burnt down, but not gonna lie, I'm a little bit bougie.
Yeah.
I don't want you to just put me and my family any place. That's gonna impact me mentally, my kids mentally. So I'm a little bit picky. So I'm that avatar that, yes, my house is burnt down, but I want to look for myself. So I am going to look on Airbnb personally to look for a property that's going to meet our needs inside of our community. That's one avatar. Simultaneously, the insurance company is looking for property, and they look on platforms like Furnish Finder. They look on another platform called Corporate Housing by Owner, and they have their own internal database as well, where you fill out a form and it goes into their internal database and you're listed there. Okay. So those are the 2 avatars. And the 3rd avatar we have encountered is like the caregiver. So say Granny's house burnt down and I'm the elder daughter and I'm looking as well. So I will look on Airbnb. At the end of the day, Airbnb is the Google of temporary housing, of furnished housing. So that's where people gravitate to. Most individuals do not know about Furnish Finder or Corporate Housing by Owner. They just go to Airbnb.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's how we found ours. Was they found us on Airbnb and then reached out to us and then connected us with their insurance company.
Yeah. Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Maybe this is a good time. I know you prepared some the how-to section of the show, which we don't have a name for yet. We're still calling it the how-to section. The how-to section of the show.
That was
the how-to section of the show. And I think you were going to talk about how to get that midterm rental insurance thing, right?
Yep.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you take the mic then and teach us.
All right.
This is amazing. This is so informative. I love it.
I know. I love this stuff because I don't know any of this.
I'm just listening. And then I'm.
All right. So how do we find a midterm rental insurance client to give us lots of money for our property?
Yeah, absolutely. And 5 easy steps.
5 easy steps.
Yes.
Got it. I'm going to take notes.
Okay. I have a framework. It's called COVER. COVER.
I love frameworks.
All right.
I'm an acronym
Brandon
fan.
is just writing it down.
I'm writing it down.
Awesome. Okay. C is for choose wisely. You want to choose a property that is going to meet the need of your ideal guest avatar. So again, for me, it's a family that is relocating from their property due to a disaster. I prefer families and larger families because they're typically coming from a larger home that has a higher depreciable opportunity. And I'll tell you why in a moment, why that matters. O is for optimized pricing. So to optimize the pricing and ask for what you believe your property is worth, you need to have an understanding of the rebuild value of the property structure. And typically, we have an allowance in our homeowner's insurance that covers us if our home is uninhabitable. And that's typically 25% of the rebuild value of the structure. So I'm looking for properties that not necessarily are grab bag properties, $17,000. Well, there's not much meat left on that bone. I want 25% of a $400,000 property that will give me $100,000 per claim per year.
Yeah.
So that's how you optimize pricing.
Yeah.
V is value add amenities. And we touch based on that. The 2 top amenities that I think is oh so very important and sets me apart from the crowd is pet friendly, which a lot of people aren't willing to do, and accessibility. So although we're not ADA certified, but we're always thinking of granny and grandpa in mind. We have them in mind. We have in mind special needs children, because at the end of the day, those are our most vulnerable individuals, and we want to make sure we have a space for them. Not a lot of hosts are thinking of that. E is for exposure. You want to make sure your property is listed on all the platforms, whether it's Airbnb, Vrbo, Furnish Finder, on the internal platforms of the temporary housing agencies, such as ALE Solutions. They have a register your property link. Just go in there.
AL what? Solution?
ALE Solutions. That's one. Yep. They're the #1 temporary housing agency in North America.
Oh, really?
Yeah, talk about stay in your lane. So Allstate, State Farm, Progressive, they don't have access to real estate. They don't have access to housing. So you know what they do? They outsource housing to a third-party agency. And that's what ALE Solutions is.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. So all you have to do is go in there, register your property. You don't get the warm and fuzzy of your photo is really cute. No, it just disappears. You're like, where did it go? And then you wait patiently, you do your thing, but you get that call. We got 2 calls this week that I'm still trying to house. Okay.
Okay, so we got choose wisely, optimize pricing, value add amenities, exposure, and
R is to respond quickly. Okay, so to answer your question, you're like, do you go out looking? No, we list our properties, and when they reach out, we respond quickly. At the end of the day, sadly, a lot of these individuals that are at the temporary housing agency are overworked.
Yeah.
So it's my pet peeve when one of our students comes to me and say, oh, they're ghosting me. They're not ghosting you. Just respond and follow up.
Yeah.
Right? So have a cadence of follow up, respond, let them know, hey, Melody, just wanted to find out about the Smiths family. Did you find housing for them? I just want to make sure they're okay. Melody just go, oh my gosh, I totally forgot. That is the response. You're not bothering them. You want to respond. I know there are, entire corporate housing businesses that go after these deals, and like they built entire models to go after these particular deals because they're highly lucrative. But I'm a mom with a whole husband and 2 boys. I was working full time. So for me, less is more. Less is more. And so that was the 80-20 rule for me, how I got I leveraged the fewest number of properties to generate really the highest profitability.
How do you determine what a house is going to rent for? And what I mean by that is like actually in between podcasts, I just put a house under contract verbally.
Nice.
So, and it's an $800,000 house. We'll probably sell it like $1 million. Yeah, it's awesome. It won't be that huge of a spread if we flip it, which is kind of what we do. And I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, well, we could long-term rent that for only like $5,000. It would negatively cash flow a ton. Like, what if it was like some sort of high-end midterm rental? I would just have no idea how to know what it would rent for long-term. And there's not a lot of that, or at least I don't know about a ton of that in our community. So how are you able to like look at the data and be like, hey, I can buy this and it's going to rent for $20,000 a month, 8 months out of the year?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so it does require a little bit of patience when you're getting started. I always purchase with the intention to leverage both a short-term and a midterm rental strategy. So if we want to break down the numbers, I would say I need to understand the property's rebuild value. So say, sadly, if the property is just struck by lightning, it burns to a crisp, how much would it cost to rebuild that property? That is the rebuild value. 25% of that per year per claim is your ceiling for a midterm rental for an insurance client. That's the ceiling. Outside of that, I look at a few comps to really come to my number. Okay. So that is your ceiling. Do I meet the ceiling every time? Not every time, but I would say 80% of the time I'm able to negotiate to get to the ceiling. What are some things that do not get me to the ceiling is if, say, my guest or the family is coming from the south west of my market. The Southwest has a lower cost of living area where the properties value are not necessarily as high as my market. And so I have to ask myself the question, okay, I had a student in our community, she's an attorney. So her property, we know she can generate $9,500 a month for it, okay? However, the insurance wanted to pay her only $6,000 a month because the tornado that destroyed this small town was a little bit of a lower cost of living area. So we negotiate to $7,600. She really wanted the $9,500. She was counting on it. I said, but look at it this way. I said, for the next 12 months, you're getting $7,600 a month. how does that feel to you? Does that feel good or doesn't feel good, right? So you need to take that into consideration. The juxtaposition of that is, say you're in this market, however, this market is like $1 million homes. We've hosted people who were coming from 11-bedroom homes, multi-million-dollar homes in our $462,000 6-bedroom home. And you know, so it's definitely a give or take. So I'm very aware of my surroundings. I want to know, okay, they're coming from this market. Is it worth it for me to take on that 7,600? Well, it was, because I was going through my own illness. My kids and I, we just kept getting these airborne. I just wanted to sleep and travel. And so it was worth it to just lock it down, 7,600 a month for 12 months. Actually, it was 13 months at the end of the day, and not have to worry about that property.
That's cool. On a midterm, do you see tenants? It's kind of a broad question, but do you see less management headache with the tenants because they're maybe higher caliber, tenants, or is that not really the case?
Well, it depends. Again, it depends on where you are hosting. For me, it has been amazing. Excuse me, speaking of airborne, right? It's been absolutely amazing. Very low maintenance tenants. But what's interesting, Brandon, and I think you'll appreciate that is my expense ratios for my highly optimized short-term rentals are at about 35%. Okay. For midterm rentals, it's about 18%.
Wow.
So
why is that? Just because they're paying their own utilities and all that?
Well, that's all baked in, but less turnover. And I collect 2 deposits. I collect a refundable and a non-refundable deposit. The refundable is small, maybe like $1,500. It covers wear and tear and the dings. So that helps out, right? The non-refundable is big. It's like the first month's rent, and it covers, some like massive destruction. You really came in and you destroyed. So having that in place, the deposits in place, my guests are really well behaved. For the most part.
Yeah,
they're really well behaved.
That's great. How do the laws and the changes in the laws over short-term and midterm, how has that affected your business and the students that you have? And like, how have you seen those laws change? Like, hey, no Airbnbs, no short-term. What have you seen there?
The laws have massively changed the short-term rental industry, so much so that our community grew by 2,400 members looking to reposition their short-term rental into midterm rentals over the last year. So the appetite for midterm rentals is here. So the laws impact that, as well as the quality of life impacts that as well. Right. So not a lot of people knew short-term rental is a hospitality business. So that's one of the, I think, the key indicators that have shifted the short-term rental versus midterm rental, but the laws have impacted it. And so with midterm rentals, oftentimes in a lot of the municipalities, it's considered a long-term rental, but everyone, I'm not understanding, you definitely look at your Muni code and your state laws.
Yeah. How would you advise somebody or look at a situation like in Hawaii, in Maui right here, right? Maui has you can't rent under 6 months. So you can't even do a 30-day here. You can't do 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. It's 6 months minimum for almost every property here. Would you just bake that into when you put on Airbnb, it's like, hey, minimum is 6 months and you still get the midterm rentals? Like, in other words, will midterm still work in a market like this?
Honestly, I have trust issues. So most of my students, I have students who are in Maui, who are in California. And once we look at those types of regulations, or in Texas with an HOA, so I need to look at your CCNRs. We're out. It's just a non-starter for me.
You're so better off finding a place that does work.
You're better off finding a place that does work. Rarely do I see a long-term rental play works. Interesting enough, we're seeing that it works overseas, like in Portugal in some areas. So, but that's a different conversation. But yeah, it's long-term rental. I just wouldn't risk it. So I do not recommend going into that situation. However, if you're already in that situation and you have a property, we're going to do the best we can. Let's list it on all of those platforms that I mentioned. And do the best with the property that we have in our hand.
Yeah. I do have a friend out here who has a house right next to mine. They were kind of carving it up, renting out, because there's like several units in it, and they're renting it out, I don't know, maybe making $15K a month. And then insurance came after the Maui fires. Of course, there's 2,500 people out, 2,500 homes that just burned down. So insurance came in and offered him, I think it was 25 or 30K.
It's right. Yeah, it's a crazy amount. I don't know.
Crazy amount of money.
It was over 20 for sure.
Yeah, it was over. I think it was 25 if I remember right. And like,
for how many?
I think they did a 12-month rental on it, so they abided by the rules and all that. And so this guy now he doesn't have to deal with multiple tenants and kind of carved up and the like the studio apartment here. Like, it's all just one house, 25K. and they're just cash flowing like an ATM machine.
Yeah.
And I think 15 was like best case scenario. If everything was rented out, I don't think he was getting anywhere near that.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's working. And I thought about that. My house is a 4-bedroom, 4-bath. I could easily turn it into a 5-bedroom if I wanted to. And I'm like, shoot, should I just find some insurance company that'll pay me 25, 30 grand a month? And
if you pay me $10,000, you can come down and stay with us.
Great. Okay, yeah, great.
There you go.
I'll
make $15,000.
I'll stay in your garage, and you can rent my house out. Yeah, financially free in one move.
Exactly.
That's a great idea.
That is true. It is. I'm such a firm believer. I've only done it once. I was telling you, before this, where we've got that house that we bought we actually bought as a place to go back and visit Missouri and have a place to stay. And so we're like, well, while we're not there, we can just, Airbnb it. And we don't know anything about that industry. We're long-term rental buy and hold people. And a insurance company or a lady reached out to us, connect us with their insurance company. And we were able to sign a year-long lease for about double what it would rent long-term. Yeah. So when that happened, I was like, "Oh my goodness! Like, I want to figure out this industry. I just have no idea how. No idea how."
Well, that leads me to ask you. I want to shift a little bit from the specifics on midterm rentals and how you've done that to the business that you're building around that. So you've mentioned a couple times students. You got community. Can you explain what is that? What does that look like right now? And then I'll ask you some questions about the process in building that.
Yeah. So what I have is a concierge coaching mentorship program that shows busy medical professionals step by baby step exactly how to get started.
Okay.
So from, I don't know where to invest, right? Holding their hands and going through that process. And I actually start off with like 10 key decisions. Okay, before we get started, let's make these 10 key decisions. One of which is, what market are you interested in? And then we filter it down to figuring out, well, what is the best tax strategy for you? Because I'm a firm believer in tax strategy. I remember working those overnight shifts, thinking to myself, okay, if I pick up a few more shifts and, moonlight in a few more hospitals, we'll get this debt whittled down. And my husband was thinking that as well until we learned about tax strategies. So that's a huge lever that we pull. So the vast majority of my busy medical professionals, whether they're a trauma surgeon or an orthopedic surgeon, we typically purchase towards the end of the year to take advantage of the bonus depreciation for short-term rentals, put it into service, and we transition them into midterm rentals beginning of the following year, where they do not necessarily have to meet material participation. So that's one of the levers that a lot of my members have they help them to pay zero in taxes while even cutting back on their W-2 work hours, which is amazing. So that is the path. I'm kind of like future pacing and looking for them, here are the benefits that are out there. And this is stuff that I've learned through Bigger Pockets, working with Amanda Hahn and just building that team that supports our members and works with them as well.
This is a very dumb question, but I thought that only worked if they are real estate professionals.
Yeah, I'd love you to explain through what is the short-term rental depreciation stuff? How do the tax benefits work for that? I was going to ask it the same way.
So it wasn't dumb.
Brandon
was going to ask it. So
I know about it, but I don't know all the details because I don't deal with medical. A lot of medical people do it, and I've spoken at medical conferences, and that's such a powerful thing. So can you walk the people through that? What is that? How's that work?
Yeah, so it's very powerful, and I may need Amanda to come and just kind of break it down. But high level, you can offset your W-2 income and change your tax bracket, essentially high level, by putting a short-term rental into service. And so in 2022, you were able to leverage that strategy that's in legislation to get 100% bonus depreciation.
Really?
Yeah. In 2023, it was 80% bonus depreciation. This year, it's supposed to be 60%.
Yeah,
but
they might
go back up.
We're
right?
waiting.
Yeah, it might go back to 100%.
And you don't have to be a real estate professional.
No. You do not have to be a real estate professional. If the property is rented out on average for 7 days or less, or it might be less than 7 days. You got to be really specific. Yeah. So that's why we launch with a short-term rental strategy first. We put it into service, and then we transition it to a midterm rental, or some of our members go on to leverage property management. But you have to manage it yourself for that first year. So we get really busy around October, November, December,
so you
for
can
sure.
essentially buy a house November, December, get somebody in there for less than 7 days, manage it yourself, and get 100% or 60%
All
bonus
day long.
depreciation on that.
60 plus% of our students, that's what we do. That's a whole vibe.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And you only
That's
deal
brilliant.
with, you only serving medical people, or somebody comes to you, they have a high income or something else. Will you work with them as well?
100%.
Okay.
For sure. Because the strategy is the same.
The strategy is the same. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
not just a medical exemption. It's just,
I love
it's
this
just near and dear to
so
me
much.
because I know what that burnout looks like and I can speak to them. So if it's an attorney, I was like, I don't know what your struggles are. They're like, I don't care. Get me in here. I was like, okay, I'll help you out.
For anybody that's listening that's just a high income earner and they're like, I don't really want to go flip houses, or I don't want to spend a ton of time like building a rental portfolio to make $200 a door.
Yeah.
This is incredible. This is
This
amazing
is
advice. I
very
love
cool.
this.
This is it.
what gave you the idea? Like, where did the idea of I'm going to build an online brand or an online, mentorship? Like, how did that all come about?
It was incredible. I remember working, again, W-2. I did a lot of working, guys. And I had my first property. I had my second property. I would have to leave. I would get a call and my team was like, hey, what's going on here? I said, oh, I have a rental and this just happened. Oh my goodness. And then they started asking questions. My boss, how are you doing it? And it's something that I was really nervous about them knowing that I have this side thing going on. And to this day, I've had 4 of my bosses go through my program.
That's amazing.
Which is amazing. But just asking the same questions over and over again. I remember sitting in my pod with Go Abundance Women, and we were going over my one sheet. And one of the questions were, Rachel, your horizontal income is not popping. Your vertical income is, what are you going to do about horizontal income? I'm like, guys, I don't know. And they started talking about courses and coaching and masterminds. I was like, interesting. And so my first step was actually to figure out who is the best course creation coach out there. And I plugged in with Amy Porterfield.
Oh,
that was
great.
I know.
Yeah, I just hung out with her a few months ago.
Oh, she's amazing. I'm episode 498.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Which is amazing. So I needed the shortcut. I was like, everything that I did with my husband, he's amazing, but everything's kicking and screaming, y'all. Kicking and screaming. But once the checks started coming in for the rentals, he's head of operations now. You know what I mean? So he was like, so I really needed to figure out if this is for me, if this is going to work. I said, I need the shortcut. And it was her. And immediately within a few months, we had a mini launch. I launched a small little program with 10 people, and already they started to gain some success. And that was it for me. I'm like, people are winning. I want more of this. And so that blew the course creation platform for me wide open. Now we have a thriving 7-figure course program where we're teaching busy medical professionals how to gain back their time freedom, their location freedom, all the things, leveraging our 2-door strategy. You don't need 100 doors. I get door envy just like everyone else. You got 100 doors. I open like, ooh, but turns out you don't need 100 doors.
I get less door envy. Like I know.
I look at I wish I
You're making more cash flow off of 2 doors than I am off of 60. It's disgusting. I hate it.
I said that on a recent podcast where I said, I have 13,000. I think I counted the other day. I have 13,500 doors, and I make less cash flow probably than most people on this show, including both of you.
13,500. Oh my God.
It's because I'm the last one paid out of 2,700 people. I'm the very last that gets paid. In a very long line of people getting paid, plus banks, plus everything else. So I'm like,
here we are thinking Brandon's rolling in the dough.
It's an equity play I'm playing. I'm playing a very big equity play, but
long game.
Yeah, I'm playing the long game. But there, I get the negative, the smaller door number envy all the time. So that's so funny.
What I'm finding is medical professionals, we have a little bit of trust issues. We'll invest in some syndication, but also we want to know we have something that we have complete control over, and that's where the 2 doors come in. Just your 2 doors, you have control over that. You're good there. And then you can do your syndications. You can do all the other things that you're interested in as well.
Super cool. I love this. All right, let's shift gears a little bit more. And you are a mother of 2, you said.
Yes.
What's your best parenting advice, for 2 young dads?
That's a good one. Budget-wise, the kids don't care about your budget. No, I'm just kidding. I would say be patient with yourself. Be patient and just forgive yourself. There's some things that we did an amazing job on, and some things that we feel like we didn't make the best decisions. But I've had to forgive myself. I've had to forgive myself for working too many hours, right? That was not a vibe. When my kids knew my nanny's name before they knew my name, I mean, that's a gut punch, right?
Yeah.
And so had to forgive myself there and just be present, So right now, what is it that I can do to continue to engage with them? And that is the goal, making that a priority.
Yeah, that's great. What about spousal wise? What have you done that's helped your marriage become a better marriage?
Oh my goodness.
What is something you do or have done?
I'm going to tap into the old love languages book.
Okay.
Yeah. So for my husband, it's words of affirmation. It's like, honey, you are doing great. And so that's what he needs. And that's what keeps him going. And he's amazing with my love language. It's acts of service. It's like, help me. Somebody, everyone help me. And so remembering that, and whether I have to, force myself, say, hey, don't forget, to, give him some of those words of affirmation, it goes a long way. So I would say understanding what your spouse's love language is. And it's not, most likely it's not going to be your same love language. So
what is Lexi's love language?
Lexi's love language is acts of service.
Is it?
Yes. And mine is words of affirmation.
Yeah.
Cam, I appreciate you. You're a
Thank
good
you,
dude.
man. Thank you.
Yeah.
What sucks is I am not an acts of service husband.
Yeah. So you have to try it.
Exactly.
But now you know.
Exactly.
That's what I liked about that book is you have like how you receive love and how you give love.
Yeah.
And when I read that with Heather, it was like, oh shoot, like I receive love in a very different way than I give love.
Yeah.
And they were not what she receives and gets, And so I think hers were words of affirmation. Mine's physical touch. But then I gave love by doing acts of service that didn't really, she didn't really care that much about it. Like she just wanted to be told she's doing a good job. And so, we just had to learn to navigate that.
Yeah. I give love by words of affirmation. And to me, I'm like, that's how I've covered it. That's good.
That's how I want to be known.
But for Lexi, it would mean the world to her. I don't have to say anything nice about her. If I do the dishes, then that means the world to her.
Yeah.
I just hate doing the dishes.
So then you just hire other people to do dishes, and that doesn't quite cut it. But
it doesn't. But it gets halfway there.
It gets halfway there. Yeah, I hire someone to do the dishes for you, honey. It's like, okay,
Does that count?
that count? Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah.
All right. 2 more questions, and we'll move on to the 3-2-1 pivot. But first, Netflix show. Tell us about that. What is it? How'd you get on it?
Okay, so remember that story that I told you about the $28,000 property?
Yeah.
Well, that one, the following month, it rented out for $15,000. The next month, it was $22,000. It averaged around $22,000 a month. Well, AirDNA, which is a market analysis platform, and Netflix, they got together with a casting company and they wanted to interview some homeowners who were seeing high revenue numbers for a TV show. So essentially, that's what it was. They reached out to us, seeing the back end and seeing the numbers, and casted us for the show. My husband and I, we did not think we would make it. We have no showbiz prowess whatsoever. We're just like mathletes and nerds. And we got onto the show, and it was interesting. So we ended up getting a cash offer on international TV for double the price we paid for the property just a year prior, which was amazing.
Did you take it and you sell the property?
Well, I'm still under NDA.
Okay. Well, we won't talk about that then.
Right. Watch the show.
Yeah, we'll watch the show.
Is it on Netflix right now, or is it coming out?
It's called Buy My House.
Buy My House.
Episode 4.
Buy My House.
Buy My House.
Love it. And it kind of like Shark Tank style?
Yeah, it is Shark Tank style. So the CEO of Barbara Cochran's firm is on there. The CEO of Redfin is another one of the sharks. I think they're called moguls or something like that. Yeah. There's a really popular baseball player as well as another gal on there. So those are the 4 sharks.
That's very cool.
Are the sharks like potentially purchasing your guys' property? Okay, so that's the whole pitch is like, let me tell you why my property
valuations
is.
Are like, okay, here's what your rents were, and here's it. So
cool.
It's really neat.
I'm excited to check that out. Very cool. All right, and then lastly but not leastly, Hillary Clinton. What's the steel drum story?
Isn't that hilarious?
Yeah, that's funny.
So I went to, interestingly enough, I can't swim, okay? And I just said it on, I can't swim. And I go to a high school called Maritime and Science Technology High School, where you have to pass a swim test every month. So I was literally fighting for my life and drowning. Well, we won a whole bunch of awards. Hillary Clinton shows up to the school, and our football team was actually water polo. Our jazz band team were steel drums, with the aquatic theme. And that's how I ended up playing the steel drums for Hillary Clinton.
That's so awesome. Yeah. That's random, but that's great.
So
You
random.
should put that on a resume someday. Yeah.
My husband was like, hon, they're asking me about a fun fact. He goes, you played the steel drums for Hillary Clinton. I'm like,
yeah, that's
okay,
great. That's a great fun fact. Yeah. Amazing. All right, let's shift over to the 3-2-1 pivot. The idea of a pivot meaning your life going in one direction and it pivots into a different one because of something you read, somebody you met, or something you heard. So let's start with the books. 3 books that have changed the direction of your life.
Ooh, Who Not How.
Ooh, great one. That's sitting over there somewhere.
Is
No,
that-
10X is easier than 2X's, but same authors.
Uh-huh.
Who Not How, okay.
Yep. I'm going to take a spin off on one of your favorites, Brandon. The One Thing.
The One Thing. I love it. That's sitting right there.
There it is.
Yeah. And
All right.
honestly, and this is not to be a brown noser, but the book on rental property investment.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that just opened the floodgates for me. I was stuck in analysis paralysis for 2 years. When you asked me, were you thinking of starting with short-term? I had been thinking of doing short-term rentals for 3 years. And then when I read that one table, I was like, oh, so I can quantify what this looks like.
Yeah, that was the one where I was like, "Hey, I'm thinking it's been a while since I read my own book there, but where I was like, hey, the cost of a water heater is like $1,000 over 5 years. That's whatever, whatever, $200 a month, or $200 a year. Divided monthly, it's this much. Yeah, I give credit to where credit's due. I originally actually saw that Scott Trench wrote an article at Bigger Pockets years earlier than that.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, so Scott wrote an article about the breakdown of CapEx, and I remember thinking, "This is brilliant!" Like that. So it was aha for me too. So I just stole it and put it in the book. So, good job, Scott Trench, on originally coming up with that idea. But yeah, the idea was, and this, I mean, I preach this constantly: is people misanalyze or underanalyze rental properties of any kind because they don't account. Whoa, why is my Siri talking to me? Okay, great. They analyze and they think like, oh, the rent minus the mortgage clears my cash flow. I'm like, well, what about the roof?
Yeah.
Well, no, the roof's new. Well, is it new? Well, it's 10 years old. Okay, so in 10 more years, you got to put a new one on. What's that going to cost you?
Yeah.
Oh, and all those things, water heater, the refrigerator, the dishwasher. Dishwashers last like 5 years in a rental property, and they're $1,000. Okay, got to save that up. And so,
for me, it was nebulous because that first property needed a roof. I'm glad you mentioned it. But before, it was like, oh, the roof is bad.
Yeah.
It's going to cost millions. In your head, it was just nebulous. And no one had put it down pen to paper before for me. Cool. And so when I saw that, I was like, oh, $8,000?
Yeah.
Okay, we can do that. We offer a little bit less, get some concessions, and we got there.
Yeah, figure it out.
Yeah.
I actually need to update the numbers in that book too. I bet
the
numbers are so
not $8,000
anymore. Yeah. I think people are buying that book now going, can I remember doing when I read real estate books, I'd be like, this is ridiculous. You can't do it. And now I'm like that guy. I'm like, I really need to update. I got to call Scott and be like, hey buddy, we need to redo this book. Yeah. All right.
Two pivot people that you've met.
Oh, that is an amazing question. Amy Porterfield, that's one. Yeah, I borrowed her belief that I could create a course. And from there, I actually have a coach, Dr. Darnell. She's another. I borrowed her belief that I could build $1 million mentorship program, and I did.
There you go. That's great. Yeah, I went to a internet marketing mastermind thing. I'd never met Amy before. I never talked to her. I'd just been following her for my entire last 12 years being on the internet. And and she was at that thing. And I was like, it's not often I'm like in a room where I'm starstruck. And I was just like, that's Amy Porterfield.
Yeah.
And
she just crossed 100 million course sale.
Wow.
100 million.
Yeah,
I'm
nuts.
like,
she
people
is
like teaching me how to create a course. No, go to her.
She's she gets it.
Yeah.
All right. Love it. Next question. One quote that has changed your life.
Oh, okay. The quote is, people are loyal to you in proportion to the impact and I'm your ability to help with their growth, right? And so for me, just pouring into my team and seeing the growth that they're experiencing, that has been the biggest aha to me. So people are loyal to you in proportion to the growth they experience because of you.
Yeah.
So whether it's members in our community that are experiencing wins or experiencing tribulations that we're navigating along with them. That is, for me, it's the people.
Cool. All right.
Next section, we're going to talk about past you, present you, and future you. And so first question I have for you is, if you could go back in time to 20-year-old you and give that person some advice, what would it be?
It'll be okay.
Yeah.
Right? You'll figure it out. That's what I would tell her.
Yeah.
You will figure it out.
Yeah, and I think a lot of young people need to hear that. Like, it's going to be okay, because there's such confusion and fog at that age. You're just like, I don't know what my life's going to be like. What am I going to do? It's like, it's going to be okay. Like, it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
What is your current number one rule for living a better life?
Right now, it's assessing how I am feeling in all my situations. And for me, it's really important to do a gut check. If I'm working with a partner, well, how does this feel?
Yeah.
Right? Is it coming easy? Am I enjoying it? Because I'm in a stage in my life where I refuse to, just kind of hustle and to just plug away at something that is in complete out of alignment with what my goals are.
Yeah.
So I have to do a gut check, whether it's with a project I may have signed up for it and say, yeah, this is going to be great. And I was sharing with you a little bit earlier, but how do I feel about it now? Do I need to reposition and say, you know what, this is not going to work for me? And just having that radical clarity of this no longer feels in alignment. This is no longer okay. And so I want to say yes to the projects that light me up and no to the project that drain me.
Beautiful.
How do you figure out, like, this is something I think through all the time, is like, it's just hard in the moment, but it is still in alignment, or it's not in alignment. Does that make sense at all? Like,
Yeah.
how do you figure that out? How do you discern that?
For me, the way it presents itself is insomnia sometimes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if I'm tossing and turning about it, no matter what stories I try to tell myself, like, no, it's okay, it'll be okay. Yeah, it's not very good. And for some reason, my ops manager and I shares a brain link, and she'll start to say, I don't know about, and so I'm so grateful for having the wisdom of counsel around me, and the multitude of counsel, there's safety.
Yeah.
And so others will start to just drop a few gems, and you're like, okay, I felt that, but yeah.
Very cool.
Love that.
All right.
Love that. And so future you, let's talk about that for a second. What do you want to be remembered by?
I love that. So I imagine, and I'm going to be open, buying an island where I am holding wellness retreats for burnt out medical professionals, particularly moms with 2 boys. Like I'm really laser focused, and providing them a reservoir of financial literacy where they're able to come in feeling burnt out and leave completely rejuvenated, and building a community where we can then take those proceeds and build out my orphanage in Bolivia and orphanage in Haiti that's sustainable to help support those communities there that are very underserved.
That's incredible. I think one thing that I'm just blown away with by you is the clarity that you have, even when it comes to your education program, where it's like I've heard the saying, "There's riches in the niches," over and over again. But like you have it set up for medical professional. You know your avatar for the houses that you're renting. You know your avatar for everything, and you're so incredibly clear on every single thing in your life. And I love that. That's incredible.
Yeah, if you speak to everyone, you speak to no one. Is what I learned in this space. So you got to get really clear.
So true. All right, well, let's wrap things up. What are you excited about in your life coming up? What's new and exciting?
What's new is we're headed to Portugal.
Oh, that's cool.
And we're going to be looking at some investing opportunities there that have like 2% interest rates, which is just a different paradigm altogether.
They get that passport thing. Do you know about that? There's like the golden passport or whatever. Is that
the
part
golden
of the
visa? Yeah, that's no longer available in Portugal.
Okay.
So I was getting really excited about that. But in Dubai, they have properties you can purchase with 0% interest. So our members of our community are looking for opportunities like that. Yeah. So I get the great pleasure, or I get to have to travel to Europe, and to find these opportunities for them and network with, I think there's a Keller Williams out there, network with the real estate agencies there to figure out and vet out which is going to be the next best move for them. So I'm super pumped about that. I have to travel international.
Yeah, rough life.
Come on.
And real quick, because we didn't touch on this at all, but you said, do you have a orphanage that you support in Bolivia and Haiti right now?
We do, yes.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Where in Bolivia?
Cochabamba.
No way. Okay.
Yeah.
I've been there. I spent 3
Oh,
months in
have
Cochabamba.
you?
Yeah. Yeah.
In Cochabamba?
Cochabamba. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Which is rare because nobody knows where
I've never even heard that
Cochabamba
in my life. Yeah.
is. It
Yeah,
is.
small world.
What is it called? The summer or the city of everlasting spring? It's like, it's a 10,000, 12,000 feet. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a Jesus statue there.
Yeah. The Cristo.
Mhm.
Random.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys
Bolivia,
both know
and then where in Haiti?
I've never. Well, we have one in Leogan in Haiti.
Yeah.
Have you been to
Support.
Haiti too? Okay. Yeah. Grew up there.
I minored in medical mission.
Really?
Oh, really?
No way. That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. It's yours.
Last question. Where can people, like, you're doing so many incredible things. Where can people hear about your education program? Is that your book?
Yeah.
I didn't even talk.
Oh, yeah. This is a compendium.
Okay.
So I have one story in this book, Hospitable Host.
Cool.
So I absolutely love it. I'll leave it here for you.
Oh, thank you.
Brandon.
Add it to the
yeah.
stack over here. I love
Add it to the stack.
Where can people find the book? Everything.
Yeah, sure. Am I allowed to share a link?
Of course.
Okay. 75 Gems. If you go to 75GEMS, that'll give our audience a link to a free resource that I have. Top 75 cities for short-term and midterm rentals. Check that out. And from there, we'll just continue to connect. And we're at Short-Term Gems on Instagram.
Where'd the name Gems come from? What was it?
I feel as though the properties, again, two-door properties, you just want to find that gem, right? So everything is short-term gems, midterm gems, 75 gems.
Yeah. Perfect.
Love it.
All right.
And I've got some socks for you guys, by the way.
Oh, no way.
Just some short-term gem socks.
Dude, I love it. All right. Thank you for being on the show. You're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You ready for the three-way fist bump?
Boom.